Hi, and welcome to today's class. This is going to be a gentle psoas release class. So the psoas muscles are these two quite chunky muscles attached to like the bottom vertebrae of your thoracic spine, your mid-back, and the top vertebrae of your lumbar spine, your base of your spine. And they're about the thickness of your fist. So they're pretty substantial muscles and they wrap around the body, slotting through the pelvis and attaching just on the inside of the femur. So the bottom part of the psoas actually is your hip flexor. It functions as the ability to move your knee up and down to climb stairs and things, but it's also supporting your back, kind of keeping your upper and lower body glued together, if you like. And you can imagine then that if your psoas muscles are very tight, if they're lacking in flexibility, if they're feeling quite kind of dry or sticky, that you would experience lots of discomfort potentially in your back, in your hips, in your pelvis. And indeed, quite often when people talk about having hip issues and tight hip flexors, what they actually mean is tight psoas. So working with the psoas muscles and also recognizing their important role in helping to move us into activation, to get us ready to respond in fight and flight, for example, is a really nice way to do this kind of therapeutic yoga practice where we're really isolating and focusing on some key muscles in the body that can start to get very tense and hold a lot of tension and potentially contribute both to pain, but also to kind of postural conditioning and holding ourselves with a lot of tension. Okay, so that's a little TED talk to begin with as to why the psoas are important. So for doing this practice today, all you need is a blanket that you can use to support yourself in some of the poses. And we're going to start by coming down onto our backs and bring the blanket underneath your sit bones as you come down. So just kind of supporting the low back and also just maybe thinking about having your pelvis, the top of your pelvis just aligned around with the top of the blanket so that when you relax back, you can almost feel a little bit of a tipping motion with your pelvis already. And coming into this position, just start by kind of checking in with the body and just seeing if you can sense into the psoas muscles. These are an involuntary muscle, meaning it's not like a a bicep that we can flex when we want to. The psoas muscle is quite deep within our body. Let's see if you could just sense into the connection points in the low back and into the hip flexors. Just this sense of this two large muscles wrapping around the lower part of the body. And then we'll start by bringing the right knee in towards the chest and just letting the left leg extend away as straight or maybe with the knee bent. See what feels comfortable for you and see where you want to draw this knee into towards your chest. Just starting with a first little stretch here through the lower part of your psoas muscles. I'm just being a little bit careful with my knee, by the way, because I fell when I was hiking. So I have a huge kind of gashy wound on the front of the knee. So if I'm being a bit careful with my right knee today, that's why. So just drawing that knee in and thinking about gently stretching and elongating the psoas. And then let's start to bring that right knee out a little bit towards the side and maybe use your left hand just to gently weigh your left hip down here. And starting to feel into this sense now of the psoas, getting active through the right groin here, but also again a sense of activation and pulling on the left to balance it out. Taking a few deep breaths here into this stretch, and a lot of this kind of work is doing what seem like quite small stretches, but doing them in a way that we're keeping the body very relaxed while we do them. Let's just bring the knee back to the center, maybe guide it in a few little circles before we change sides. So a lot of the time with that tightening, that bracing, that holding pattern in our muscles, it's because of that element of tension, of kind of being overly focused in a way in our exercise can contribute to that. Let's extend the right leg away, start to bring the left knee in. So something we can do with somatic yoga or yoga therapy is just thinking about these smaller movements, gentler stretches that are done whilst keeping the body quite nice and relaxed. And this can actually really help to relieve some of that tension, some of those bracing postures through the body. So using your breath here, keeping your mind on those psoas muscles. Maybe let's just bring that left knee out a little bit and use your right hand just to weigh that hip down. Just feeling into this stretch on the other side of the body now. Taking deep breaths. And gently bring that knee back in. Maybe guide it in a few little circles. Just feeling into the hip joint a little bit there. And just stretch it away. Just check in a little bit. Noticing that slight lower body activation. What are the little resonances from those stretches you can feel? And walk your feet up. And if you'd like, we'll just come into a quick happy baby, just to drop that pelvis back a little bit, pressing your seat down towards the blanket. And maybe you're just kind of holding onto your ankles, bringing both knees out to one side, more like a kind of reclined butterfly pose. Or you could take hold somewhere on your feet or around your ankles, bring those feet up towards the ceiling, gently drawing the knees down, pressing the base of the spine down towards your blanket, sort of as if there's a little weight on your tailbone there. And maybe sensing again into the psoas muscles here, stretching from the low back, the top of the lumbar spine, all the way round into the hips. Taking some big breaths into your abdomen here where we have space to do so. And just bring the feet back together. Bring your knees down. And we're just going to roll over now onto our bellies. And we're going to keep the blanket. Actually going to bring it sort of, you might even want to make more of a firm roll here. So bringing it so that it sits into the hip crease a little bit. You can kind of lower yourself onto it. So it's underneath the lower part of your belly. Bringing your forehead down. Just feel into the back body. Just noticing the effect of the blanket on your low back, helping just to expand and spread a little bit through the low back. So this is really nice if you walk around with a kind of sway back, kind of sticking your bottom out, curving the base of your spine in. So just a nice little corrective for that. And in this position, then we're really allowing ourselves to target the psoas muscles across the low back. So we're going to lift up the hips, move them a little bit towards the right side of the mat. Make sure you take the blanket with you. Walk your feet over towards the left side of the mat and turn your upper body towards the left side of the mat. So you're coming into a banana shape, but you're on your tummy. And lowering yourself down here. And what you can do here as well is take your left ankle and kind of gently pull the bottom, the right ankle, kind of scrub it over a little bit more towards the left. And now we're thinking about a really nice big stretch through the right side of the body, targeting to that psoas muscle on the right side. Taking some big breaths into the low back and into the right side here. And just come back to center. Come back into a neutral. Just pause for a moment and check in and notice the difference between the right side and the left. And then we'll just lift up, move across to the left this time. Walking the feet to the right, taking the upper body to the right. Crossing that right foot over the left ankle, kind of scrubbing it a little bit more towards the right edge of the mat. And taking some slow, deep breaths into the left side of the body, feeling that nice long expansion. And then come back to center. Just reset for a moment. Feel into both sides now. And we'll come up just to adjust our position. We're going to come into a child's pose. Again, we're going to use the blanket here. Tucking it again into the hip flexors a little bit. Bring your knees as wide as you would like. You're going to bring yourself down with the blanket, providing that little bit of extra support through the belly to help with the expansion of the low back. So stretching the arms forward, taking some big breaths here, feeling the whole of the low back, that slight pleasant traction from your fingers all the way back to your tailbone. Imagining there's a little bit of a weight on the base of your spine with every exhale. Gets that little bit heavier. Let's take another big breath here. Slowly walk the hands back in. We'll just move the blanket over to one side and come and find your down facing dog. So spreading the hands, spreading the fingertips nice and wide, tuck the toes, press back into your heels, hips towards the ceiling, about turning your underarms in towards one another. Just paddle out the legs a little bit. And again, can you think here about the psoas muscles and the work they're doing here as you bring your hips heavenwards. Take a big breath into the low back. And then let's just step the right foot through. Just come and find a low lunge. So bring that right foot down, maybe just kind of underneath the knee there. Again, think about the psoas muscle, how it's wrapping round and how involved it is in this pose. And then we'll just rock back into little half splits. Toes could be down or up. See how it feels. And just move back and forwards a few times. And visualize the compression and then the lengthening of that muscle that's enabling this movement. And next time you come forward now, you could be on fingertips or fists, or maybe you can put your hands flat. Think about looking over your right shoulder, and as you do this, tuck the tailbone underneath. And just notice what happens at the front of your left hip and deep into your pelvis. Take a couple more nice deep breaths here. And gently come back to center. And now we're just going to shift our weight back and move our right foot back until we can come up into a little 90-90 lunge. So the right knee is over the right ankle, the left hip is over the left knee. Find a nice straight spine. Maybe your hand is on your hip here, left arm comes up. And can you come over into a side bend? So not coming forward, not coming back, but just straight and over to the right. Feel into the left psoas here. Take a breath, and when you exhale, bring the left hand down and bring the right arm up to the ceiling into a twist, moving through that right psoas. And let's just move through that a couple more times. So up and into a side bend. Straighten up, hand comes down, little twist. Once more, taking it at your own time. Calming back up, and just bring the right knee behind the left. Think about hips over your knees. Bring your fingertips into that low spine. Just gently press down. And as you do this, bring your hips forward to keep them over your knees, opening through your collarbones, dropping the head back a little bit, engaging through the glutes, feeling that nice pull at the front of the hip flexors. Take a breath. Straighten up. Settle for a moment in your kneeling pose. Just your breath, down facing dog. Stretch it out. Feel how that feels now compared to your first downward facing dog, if there's a little bit more space. And then we'll take it to the other side. We're going to bring the left knee through, and I'm just going to pad my right knee here just to make this a little bit more comfortable. Coming into your little low lunge. And then just start by moving gently back and forth, lengthening and compressing. And then coming forward into your low lunge again, this time let's look over the left shoulder, tuck the pelvis down and under, and feel that stretch through the front, the right hip, and into the pelvis. Coming back to center, let's come up into that 90-90 lunge. Knee over ankle, hip over knee, left hand to your hip this time, right arm comes up, side bend over to the left. And on your exhale, right hand comes down, open up, little twist. Take it twice more on this side, just moving at your own pace. You might be faster than me, you might be slower. Keeping that mindful attention on the low back and on the hips. Coming back up, let's bring the left knee beside the right. Bring the fingertips to the low back, gently pressing down. Hips come forward to stay over the knees. Thinking about lifting the sternum, drawing the shoulder blades back. Draw the glutes up. Big breath. And exhale. Straighten and come down this time. Let's come into a little rabbit pose. Forehead down to the mat. Roll onto the top of your head. Just a light pressure there. Bring the hands to the heels, a nice traction through the shoulders. Breathe deeply here into the low back. Feel that lovely stretch through the psoas. And then settle down, hips to heels. Maybe just take a little easy child's pose. Maybe rocking side to side a little bit. Just nourishing the low back. And bring your hands underneath you to support yourself, coming back up onto your heels. Let's just bring the feet out to one side and in front of you, about mat width apart, just supporting yourself with your hands, and just drop the knees from side to side. Thinking again about this movement of the psoas muscle, lengthening through it. And then we'll just come to take a seat. You're rubbing the hands together. Bring a little bit of heat into your hands. Just bring them towards the back, towards those psoas muscles. Just let the heat seep in for a moment. Just acknowledge them and all the hard work they do for your body. And then just come to rest. Maybe one big breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Letting the body relax. Hope that you found this yoga therapy class helpful. These are the kind of moves, if you do them regularly, should help you to really find a little bit more looseness and ease through your back and then through your hips, your pelvis. Do let me know how you get on with them. Please do remember to like and subscribe. It really does help other people to find the channel. I look forward to practicing again with you soon.